Hi, Giacomo. Thanks for being here with us today. I am Olivia Voltolini Prisco, digital and media experience intern at In Network. Thank you for being with us here tonight. And so, who are you? Could you give us a bit of an overview about yourself? I know you're a commodity analyst and geopolitical strategist.
Hello, Olivia. Thanks for having me. Quickly recap about myself. As you rightly said, yes, I like to speak about commodities, trade, and geopolitical events. I have a few channels where I spread my view on these topics. One is LinkedIn. Also, I have my newsletter. It's called The Merchant News on Substack. And I also post every day some pills about these markets that I follow on X.
Let's start with a bit of an introduction. And when people hear about commodities, they think of prices. But in your view, what's the simplest way to explain why commodities are important for national security?
So this is a very important question, actually. We could stay here for hours speaking about this topic, but try to reply in a simple way. Is just regarding the latest news that happened since the starting of this year. We saw what happened in Venezuela with Maduro. We saw what happened in Greenland about the rare earths. We saw with China, they have the monopoly on the metals, and the fact that now US wants to get the independencies or some of the critical minerals and metals that now they are dependent on external providers. So I think all of these tension we can sum up with commodities and the fact that they are crucial for our economy, but also for the strategy and also for the defense.
Yeah, it definitely does make sense. Everything in our world is now increasingly more interconnected and interdependent. I really liked the topics you mentioned before. Before delving into that, I just had another quick question. What's a misconception policymakers often have about commodity markets?
So here, it's not easy to say the misconception, but if we need to be transparent about the latest, say things that happen are regarding, for instance, the renewables. So there was a huge focus in the renewables energies and the fact that we should adopt them very fast and quickly. But I think that the people who make the policy and make the rules about the adoption of this new way of making energy, they misunderstood the fact that they weren't reliable and cheap because the technology for the moment is still developing, and we really need to rely on fossil fuels such as oil, such as gas, and also other way of making energy such as nuclear. And I think that the fact that in US and now in US they're trying to change the storytelling and also the focus, but also in Europe that they want to push to use the renewables as the new way of making energy really change the structure of our economy and also of the company, the manufacturing company that rely heavily on energy prices.
Yeah. Jumping back to what you mentioned before about the US, from the recent national security strategy of Donald Trump, it's he emphasizes a lot this energy dominance and securing supply chains. When policymakers talk about reliance, for example, on China for critical minerals, what does it actually look like in market reality? Does it mean more mining, more refining, more long-term contracts?
Yeah, I think this is the when the thought of independency and security becomes reality in the real market. So now what we are seeing is a switch. Before or until a couple of months, we saw the fact that the US, especially, also other economies, they were heavily reliant on import of those minerals that are important for the internal production. And so now they understood the fact that cannot rely that much on other players to import those materials. Because, for instance, let's make an example. If you are in a war against your enemy, and this enemy is the one that is supplying to you the minerals or the metals that you use to create your jets or defense or the vessel for the navy, you have an issue. So that's why they realized it. They realized the fact that they need to go back in production, even if this came with a cost of pollution. And that was the enemy of the past. But now they understood the fact that it's more important to have security. And so we saw the fact that now US is trying to sign more deal with strategic places under their control, such as South America, or also some places also in Africa or even Greenland, and they want to implement the imports of these resources and try to refine internally. So that's the topic.
It's really interesting. I'm curious, in your view, what was the event or events which marked this turning point?
Yeah, the latest one I think is happening now in Iran. So every day we read we are reading headlines about the actual situation in Iran and the fact that the US is bringing their navy and try to manage the situation that is happening in their country. I think this is relevant for the resources because, as we know, Iran is the third biggest country in terms of oil reserve worldwide. It's also a key player for the Chinese market. In fact, he basically is exporting more than 95% of his oil to China, and China is buying it at a huge discount. US doesn't want that this happen. It doesn't want that China has the control of different sources for the oil, and this oil is under sanction. We saw that the same thing happened also in Venezuela a couple of weeks ago when US took Maduro, and now they are making we are trying to make the Venezuela, especially the oil business, the Venezuelan oil business, back on track as it was in the past. In the past, before Maduro, I think during the Chavez period, the production of oil was about roughly 3.5 million barrels per day, and now is below a million. So you can imagine the fact that, of course, due to the sanctions of US, and also mainly because of the mismanagement of the government, they decreased the output of key resources for the country, also key elements of income for them, and they were exporting it mainly to China, also the Venezuelan government, because of the fact that the Chinese refinery were paying less for the Venezuelan oil, and they were making a good profit. And US is trying to control the energy sphere, as you rightly say earlier. And this is part of their plan, on top of also of the minerals.
Staying on this kind of topic, in your experience, do commodity markets sometimes act as an early warning signal of for geopolitical tension before policymakers react?
I think they are sometimes they are the key reason of some geopolitics events. So they are crucial. The economy, the base, the foundation of the economy is settled on the commodities. Some commodities, such as gold, are used for risk when there are some tension in geopolitics. So the gold came up as the winner, as we saw last year. Some economy are important for a specific purpose, as we saw with silver or copper for the energy transition, and we saw also rally there. Some economies are important for the energy demand that is still keep rising day after day. If you imagine like your parents 20 years ago, they were using less energy than today, and you are using much more energy. So the demand of energy is going up, and we need more way of making energy than the past. So also this is a crucial element. And of course, we have also the soft commodities that are important for to keep us alive. So there are many different commodities, all are crucial for different factors. And the fact that from day to day we read something happening in the newspapers, I think most of the time is related with them.
Do you think there's a general curiosity? Do you think there's a commodity which is the most important amongst all?
Yeah, for me is oil because is the biggest market. So the volumes in oil we cannot see in others commodity, and so I think oil is still the king of commodities. I did a post on LinkedIn about that recently, but of course I don't know if in the future it will be like that. We saw now with gas that especially US is pushing very hard on gas and the export of gas through LNG, mainly also due to the fact that in Europe something crucial happened. So with the starting of the war between Ukraine and Russia, Europe decided to stop importing the Russian gas through the pipelines. And of course, now they're not zero yet, but they are going in that direction. It drops a lot the level of gas imported from Russia. And we saw an increase in LNG from US to Europe. Now around 57% of the gas is coming from the US LNG. On top of that, US is developing a new way of making LNG, so a new plant, and is building the pipeline. And also the data center demand for AI will be using mainly gas and not renewables energy. So gas, I think, is going to be very crucial for the future.
Staying goes on energy. People say that US is dominant because it produces a lot. In your view, what defines strongest production? Is it spare capacity? Is it flexibility? Is it investment or control of choke points?
All of them are important points. Focusing on US, I think it's important to disclose it. In my view, US is a thalassocracy. What does it mean? It means that if you want to control the real power of the world, you need also to control the sea. And this is an historic way of ruling the world. All the big emperor, if we go back to the UK with the Commonwealth, they were ruling mainly the sea. Before them, the Netherlands, the Spanish. So we saw this way of operating from the superpower of the world. They were controlling the sea. And I think now US is controlling the strategic choke points of the world. What are the choke points? The choke points are small, thin places where the vessel need to go through, such as the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal that closed a couple of years ago because of tensions with Yemen, and this spikes the cost of the vessel to trade all over the world. The Malacca Straits in Asia, very crucial, is next to Singapore. So those choke points are very important for the trade, the global trade, and US is controlling them with their army, and no one can put them outside of this area of control because they still have the best army worldwide. But on top of them, I think another element is to link with that is the Greenland, because why Greenland is important not only for the rare earths or the mineral resources, but also for the Arctic routes. Now with the war that is becoming a little bit hotter, the ice will melt, and through that a new way of commerce will be developed on top of say Russia, and for China to trade with Europe, this new route is going to be timeless. of course, because it's easier for them and also cheaper, and also connects strategically the Chinese market with the Russian market, with the European market. And of course, US wants to control also that. And this is why we saw that situation with Greenland. So I think this is the choke points are key, but also the capacity. If we speak about metals, so now China control the refining of the metals worldwide, but still they are dependent on the mines. The mines are not located mainly in China. They are in Africa, they are in South America, they are in South Asia. So the fact is the real issue is the fact that to have those mines are generating pollution. And if you want to build new mines, it's not something that happen in 1 month. It takes years. And now, for instance, with copper, that the demand is gonna increase year after year. We don't have enough mines, and we don't have enough production to meet the demand in the future. And this is a very important factor, because if you want to open new mines, you need to wait 10 years. That's an issue, because we will not have enough copper for the future. And so all those elements are critical for the world. And of course, there are countries and companies that are trying to make their best in order to solve those problems.
So staying on copper, I mean, it sounds maybe like a mundane metal, but from a national security perspective, in your opinion, why has copper become so strategic?
Mainly for the EV. So the electric vehicles at the beginning, because we were being told that the next vehicles will be all made with electricity and batteries, and also for the solar panels, also for the grids, the electricity demands, and the fact that we need to spread electricity all over the places, because we need energy. The copper is the best metals to drive energy from point A to point B, and also gold is the best one, but it's very expensive. So copper is the best choice. And I think so for the demand of energy that will keep going higher and higher, copper is the key elements for that. So I think this is the reason why we see copper as a critical mineral for the next decades.
Instead, jumping back on Greenland, it sounds like Greenland is becoming a more, geopolitical option for the future. Is it actually something realistic, or is it more fantasy?
No, as I told you earlier, for the factors and reasons that I explained to you about the rare earths, the roots, and the strategic position and the melting of the ice, I think Greenland will be more and more important for the strategy of, let's say, the Western country.
Okay. Well, instead, focusing on Africa, which we touched upon earlier. The US has been trying to secure African minerals through offtake deals and financing. From your perspective, does that approach actually work, or is China still operating at a different scale with some advantage?
Yeah, about Africa, I think that we need to step back and think about the past. So in the past, there used to be European countries that were controlling the African resources with the colonialism. After that, after the World War II, and so last century, they went out from Africa, and the Africa countries, they kept their independence and control most of the countries. And China did a smooth move, I would say, and they implement a sort of colonialism 2.0. So not through army or weapon or battles, but through investments, development of the infrastructure. And that's how they now they have a strong grip on those countries, and especially on the resources. US understood it. US is trying to to leverage on some countries. Still, the game just started, or at least for the moment, China played better for this. But US is trying to do something similar in South America, I would say. And we will see that the area of control that for US will be more related with South America than for China, Africa.
Just another question was related to this. From a trader's view, what's the difference between a supply chain that is efficient, one instead one that is secure?
Oh, I think from a trader view, the safetiness of a deal is not an easy way of operating, because actually what a trader does is to manage the risk. So the role of a trader is and we saw with the biggest trading companies such as Glencore, Trafigura, Mercuria, Vitol. Also, those companies are managing the risk for the final clients, so the steel mills, the foundry, the refineries that are all spread worldwide. What the traders do is they lock in the raw materials from those mines that are worldwide, and they send it to where they need to go, so to the final destination, and they may manage the risk of the logistic cost and the transportation, the price that every day is changing. And so that's the real the value of a trader.
Changing slightly topic and focus, sanctions. They are often framed as as a tool governments have, but from a market's perspective, are they effective, or are they kind of halfway measures?
So sanctions, I think, are an important tool if they are maintained. So you cannot just say, okay, I put sanction on you and that's it, and wait that something is going to happen. I think what we saw recently, and I think those are a clear example of the way that US is managing sanction. And I want to do this example because I think those are working better than others. They decided to put sanction on US decided to put sanction on several oil producers, but especially to some Russian companies such as Rosneft or Lukoil. And they put sanction on them in order to block the export of oil in other countries. And one of the key clients for them was India, so Indian refineries. And so what US did is say, okay, I will put sanction on Rosneft and Lukoil, but I will not stop there. After that, what they did, they start discussing with the Indian government of Modi, and start speaking about, okay, we need to manage our tariff between my country and your country. And in order to achieve a good deal for both countries, they put also those oil imports on the table. And now we are seeing that India is dropping in the imports of Russian oil, also due to the fact that US play, let's say, a 360 degrees game to try to counterattack the Russian oil company. The same if we speak about Europe with LNG against Russia. So they put sanction, and now they want to stop importing Russian gas. But here it's different because Europe is very dependent on energy. And if they don't have other sources, they still need to buy from them. And so that's why the US LNG came out.
And you said before that you think that America is the most effective in sanctions. What makes you say that? Is that the consistency you were saying before, or is it also something else at play?
So I would say that it's not been always like that. I would say that just these latest move are very effective. In the past, it wasn't always like that. And I don't want to say this one is better or the other one is better. I just looking at facts. And based on that, I would say that, of course, US has a key player in the geopolitical landscape. Is very effective because they can do what they want through trade, through they are the biggest economy, through army, they have the biggest army worldwide, and through also relationship. They have a very strong relationship with most of the countries worldwide, and that's why they can leverage on those elements and bring the sanction in the direction that they want or they need.
Yeah. That's most definitely true. America does do have some great power at hands. And if you had to give in-network students and audience a single mental model, like how to read commodities as geopolitics, what would it be?
So, of course, is to check valuable and trustable sources of information, because sometimes they're not all right and correct. So if you use good newspapers or software, you can have those information. Sometimes you have too many information, so there is a lot of noise around certain topics, and it's important to understand which one are the real information behind the article or the headlines, and try to connect as many dots as you can, because sometimes you just focus on one thing that happened, but actually behind that moves there are a lot of other factors that are triggering the final outcome that we are looking.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, I sometimes hear it with comments amongst my peers of international relations. They often are stuck on the surface, and I'm like, yeah, but what about this? And I mean, it's all interconnected, as I am sure you know. And just to wrap up this interview, I'm curious, what still personally surprises you about the markets after all of these years?
The fact that no one has the crystal ball, the fact that no one can see the future, and you can make as many assumptions as you want, or you can be completely certain about something, but still the market can go in a different direction.
Yeah. Makes sense. We live in a very unpredictable world, and so thank you so much on behalf of the network for joining us. And most definitely, guys, do check out his newsletter. It's really well written, and it's worth
Thank
reading.
you.
Thank you so much.